Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. A massive welcome back to the channel for NFL draft expert Jack Brentnall, who has ever so kindly lent me more of his time to do a prospect dives, pardon me, on a few players for our Cleveland Browns. Whilst I consider myself to be fairly knowledgeable when it comes to the NFL draft, Jack, in my opinion, is on another planet, so I'm incredibly grateful for him coming on here to give you guys, as well as myself, a more in-depth analysis on, some of this year's prospects. Jack's really good at what he does, as I said, and if you don't believe me, go check out the Touchdown NFL's 500-page draft guide, I think it is. Basically a dictionary for all the draft prospects this year. Truly one of the best draft guides out there, so I'll make sure to link that in the description if you are interested. But without further ado, we're going to dive into some players, some prospects for the Browns. I personally think there's only 3 players that, are in consideration for the number 2 pick. Probably only 2 if we're being honest. But we're going to cover all 3 of those guys, as well as a quarterback that I've had my eyes on for pretty much most of the off season as well. Make sure you check out all of these dives, and hopefully they can teach you a lot about what will be the Cleveland Browns' first round draft pick since 2021. So moving on to the quarterback, we've spoke about it in the other prospect dives. I think everyone expects the Titans to go Cam Ward at number 1. That would mean that the only, should we say, realistic option that a lot of people, and I mean, it's not realistic for me, but realistic for the mock draft people and all of that stuff, is a SHEDEUR Sanders. I know some Browns fans out there are still, this is still what they want to do. They want to take SHEDEUR Sanders at number 2. I've been pretty vocal all off season about how I don't want to do that. But as I said, I like to cover all bases for all Browns fans. So we are going to talk about SHEDEUR Sanders, because in the end of the day, if they don't take him at 2, there's also been some reports that if he does start to slide, who knows, maybe they trade back up into the first to go and get him. You never know. So just in case he does end up on the Cleveland Browns, I thought we would talk about him. Overall thoughts on SHEDEUR Sanders, Jack?
Yeah, I think for me, he does a lot of the kind of little things well that you want in an NFL quarterback. He's accurate. He is good processor. He can read pre-snap pretty well, which is always good. He was tasked with that quite a lot in the Colorado offense, kind of identifying blitzes and picking out, and he did a good job to kind of pick out those favorable matchups pre-snap and then kind of find them post-snap. If I'm honest, that's kind of where the great stuff kind of ends for me. I don't think he's a terrible player at all, but I just think this is a class where we have a lack of quarterback talent at the top, and somebody's name is going to have to get put up there, and Sanders is seemingly that guy. I get the fit, I get the fit with Stefanski. I like rhythm-based accuracy, work in the middle of the field. Okay, that works, and that's fine. And I don't think it's a bad fit, but it's just not a second overall pick type fit. And that for me is like where I sit with SHEDEUR. He's fine. I don't hate it. I think it feels to me like you talk about SHEDEUR on the internet, and it's like if you say anything mildly critical, it's like you're a SHEDEUR hater. You hate
Yeah,
Colorado. You hate Dion. Da, 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 da. No, I don't
yeah.
hate him. I don't love him. He's fine, but you don't take guys who you describe as fine. I mean, anywhere near number 2 overall. I wouldn't take him in the first round either. But
Yep.
yeah, that's kind of where I sit on him.
Yeah. I mean, fairly bold statement, shall we say? I mean, I know I think most draft, experts and experts, shall we say, have kind of come around to this idea that he's not going to go as high as, the initial kind of thought that people were trying to push. So, but as you said, to not have him as a first round talent, I don't think everyone, as I said, I don't think that's the census. So quite a bold statement for me. As I said, I've not been shy in this. I don't think he's the pick at number 2. As you said, he's fine, but you don't take fine at number 2. That's been my biggest point that I've tried to get across, is that, you've got the luxury of picking number 2 because you were that crap last year. Don't try and be crap again by going with fine. You need to take one of the blue chip players, as I mentioned, with a Travis Hunter or an Abdul Carter. Yes, he's I say pretty accurate. He is very accurate. He's a very accurate quarterback. He's got good ball placement. He's clearly got a good attitude for me. Like, I think he's got the right head, like the right, mindset. I think he approaches the position and the game in the right way, which I do think will help him. Because I don't think, there's been plenty of prospects that similar with him not being the most talented, but they haven't had that, and that's why they failed. So I do think if he does work out, that will be why. It will be that true determination, which, being Deion Sanders' son is quite impressive, because this guy could have just sat on the couch and been rich his whole life. He clearly wanted to make something of himself.
Yeah.
And I think he has that, as I said, determination to go and do that. But I just don't think he's, you don't think he's a first round quarterback. I maybe wouldn't go that far. I probably would agree with you, but I think just because of the lack of other quarterbacks in this year is probably why he will go first round. I don't think he'd have gone first round as we, like last year's draft. But for me, it's just, he doesn't have any trait that sticks out, and he's not, either on his play style, and then also flip side of it, he's not, he's not the biggest. I think he's 6'1", barely 200 pounds. He's got not a weak arm, but he's not got a, it's not a plus for him. I just don't, as you mentioned, I don't think he has any trait that makes me want to bet on him as the second overall pick. But I suppose to not just shit on him for the whole video, like if you were to make an argument, as you said, I think it was the fit. So if you are to make an argument for drafting him at number 2, is that what it is? Is it just the idea of the fit?
Yeah, I think the fit is a big part of it. I think there's also a point, like if you were trying to sell yourself on Sanders, you'd like look at the line he played behind at Colorado, and you say, okay, there's not going to be many players that would look good behind that. And I also don't think that offense really did him a lot of favors. So I suppose if you're looking at it like that, you might say, okay, well if we trust our offensive line and we trust our offensive coordinator, if you can get this guy working in clean pockets, he's got the athleticism. He's got the accuracy. He doesn't have the athleticism. He's got the accuracy. He's got that kind of willingness to work the middle of the field, which is much more important when we're going NFL than we are in college. And he processes pretty well. So like what you're looking for, and I think the aim with a pick like this is, okay, we could get ourselves like a Brock Purdy type. Right?
Yeah.
Like someone in that range, the kind of quarterback you can win with. Now, they're not the guy you win because of. They're not the guy who elevates an otherwise kind of average roster. There will then be a debate as to how much you value that, right? And it all depends on the roster, your coaching staff, everything else like that. It's just whether you are willing to take what might be kind of quarterback 12 to 16 at his peak. I think that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's where he's going to slot in.
Yeah.
Quarterback 12 to 16, if he hits, are you willing to take our first round? I can see the argument either way, but it's just how confident are you that he hits that ceiling either? And I think that's what would kind of make me kind of a little cooler on him, especially at the price that the Browns would have to pay, unless, like you say, they either trade back or they can pick him up kind of late in the first round, early second.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be completely against it, as you said, later on, but that's just why I wouldn't do it at number 2. He has. I don't think the gap between his ceiling and the ceiling between a Jalen Milroe, maybe even a Jackson Dart, is that big enough to justify drafting him at number 2 overall when you could potentially get even him or one of those other guys later on in the draft. I don't think the Browns need to reach at quarterback. I at the start I was in the boat of I probably wouldn't have drafted Cam Ward number 2 overall over an Abdul Carter or a Travis Hunter. I know you said in one of the other prospect dives that you would take. I think it was the Hunter one that you'd take Hunter over Cam Ward if you were the Titans. So I'd probably do the same if I was the Browns at number two. Let's say the Titans did take a Abdul Carter, I would probably draft Hunter. Not probably, I would definitely draft Hunter over a Cam Ward or a SHEDEUR Sanders. So that's what it's come down for me. I just don't think he has traits that are good enough for me to bet on drafting him at number two. When, as I said, I could get other guys that maybe arguably have better traits later on in the draft. I've been in the camp of take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at number two, and then go and find your quarterback either at pick 33. If you have to trade back into the first because you're worried, maybe that's how you do it. But I'd rather just wait to 33, see who's there, or maybe even a little bit later if you look at a Will Howard or someone like that. But I was going to try and make this the same with the Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter videos where we kind of were a bit more fair, just we like them more as prospects. But if I'm honest, I'd be lying to you guys and everyone here if I was going to sit here and try to do that. For me, this is not the pick for the Browns, but I do understand why people were trying to make the pick because it's the quarterback position. It's the most important position in sports. It's SHEDEUR Sanders. His last name is Sanders. I understand it. He's fine enough to make the argument, kind of. So I do get it. But as I said, I'm completely against it, and I'm glad that you feel like in the same boat because, I feel like most people are coming to that consensus now.
It's the opportunity cost for me, right? Like if we were talking about him with pick 33, I wouldn't have him. Like he's not that high on my big board, but like I could be like, okay, yeah, I get that. Like, but it's pick number two, or even a top 10 pick. I'm like, no, like that. Like, are you? If we're talking about him being in that kind of that range of quarterbacks that we're saying, like your Brock Purdy's or Tua or someone of that kind of level, would you rather have that, or would you rather have we've talked about Hunter and we've talked about Carter as these guys who could be if they hit, I think they could be in the conversation for the best players in their position. Would you rather have a Myles Garrett, TJ Watt level player, whoever you want to pick any kind of elite edge, or Tua?
Yeah.
That's the way I'm looking at it, right? And that's, like I say, best case scenario in my view for both of these players in terms of the tier of player we're talking. I know quarterback is more valuable than other positions, but at some point it's just like getting good players.
Yeah.
Like at some point the value is overridden by I just want good players and I don't care what position they play.
Yeah, and I think the Browns aren't in a position to take that. They need good football players, as you said. That's what they need on this team. So to give up, to pass up on drafting really, really good football players, in my opinion, to reach on a SHEDEUR Sanders at number two would just be a silly thing to do. If it was at 33 and he's still there, yeah, I'd understand it. But I suppose finally on SHEDEUR Sanders, you kind of mentioned, you didn't have him as a first round talent. Where is he in terms of your quarterbacks? Is he your QB 2, 3, 4, 5?
He's QB 3.
Yep.
But he's not QB 3 by miles.
Yep.
Like he's narrowly ahead of who I'd have at 4 and 5 for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, find out who I think QB2 is in our next prospect dive. I promise you guys, I did not pay Jack to come on here and agree with me about SHEDEUR Sanders. You can go check out. He's talked about SHEDEUR plenty on his socials and over at the Touchdown NFL. So you can go check out all his stuff as always over there. But as I said, find out who his QB2 is in my next prospect dive. Jack, thank you so much again for giving me your time to talk some NFL draft. I'm always a smarter man after talking to you, so I really do appreciate it. Before you go, please let everyone know where they can find you and the amazing work that you do.
Yeah, it's been great to be on, mate. So thanks for having me. You can find me on Twitter or whatever we call it these days, Jack_Brentnall. My pinned tweet is the Touchdowns 2025 NFL Draft Guide as well. So if you haven't got your copy, it's £5, 500 and something pages worth of content. So worth having a look at if you are wanting to be ready for draft night. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know I mentioned it in the intro. It truly is worth the money. I mean, £5 for, I'm not good at maths, but £5 for 500 pages, that's definitely good value for your buck. One of the best draft guides out there. Jack, as well as the Touchdown NFL, do such great work. So, as he said, if you are interested, especially at trying to get to some of these Browns, potential Brown targets, I encourage you to go check that out. As Jack said, either on his Twitter page, he's got it pinned over there, and I will also put the link in the description of this video to see where you can find it as well. So, Jack, as always, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. I know this is your favourite time of the year. I know it's probably one of your busiest times of the year. So don't work yourself out too much, and hopefully the Packers have a somewhat decent draft that can get you pretty happy about.
Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.